The twin suns of planet Zerath burned bright above the great arena. Thousands of alien eyes stared down from the tall metal seats. The sound of drums echoed like thunder. The people of Zerath had gathered to see a punishment, a cruel and ancient one. In the center of the arena stood a young alien girl. Her name was Lyra. Her skin shimmered pale silver under the suns, her eyes full of quiet fear. Her wrists were locked in glowing chains. She looked small and fragile in the middle of the massive circle. At the front, a tall alien with dark armor raised his voice. His name was Commander Vorn, the ruler's enforcer. He shouted, "Lyra of House Vare has betrayed the council. She has hidden forbidden knowledge. She has helped the humans. For this she will face the judgment of lashes, 300 strikes." The crowd gasped, then cheered. Some shouted, "Let her suffer." Others beat their fists on the metal rails. But a few faces turned away, unable to watch. Among the crowd stood Ethan, a young human boy, maybe 18 years old. He was the only human on Zerath. His short brown hair was dusty, his clothes torn from hard labor. He had been working in the city's energy mines since he was a child. Ethan's heart pounded as he watched the scene. He had seen punishments before, the aliens used them to show power, but this one felt different. This girl, he knew her. Two guards dragged a heavy whip made of burning plasma. It hissed and cracked with energy. Lyra didn't move. She looked at the ground, her breathing calm, almost peaceful. The first whip strike came down with a flash of blue fire. The sound cut through the air like lightning. Lyra screamed, a sound that made even the loud crowd fall silent for a moment. Ethan clenched his fists. His stomach twisted. He remembered her face, weeks ago, in the wastelands outside the city. He had been lost, hunted by desert beasts. A creature twice his size had almost killed him. Then from nowhere, Lyra had appeared. She had risked her life to save him. She had said only one thing before disappearing into the night. Not all aliens are cruel, human. Some still believe in kindness. Now she stood there, being tortured for that same kindness. The whip came down again, once, twice, 10 times. Her skin burned. She fell to her knees. The crowd began to shout again. Commander Vorn smiled cruelly. "Do you admit your crime?" He barked. Lyra looked up weakly. "My only crime was mercy," she whispered. Vorn raised his arm again. "Then you will die with it." The next whip cracked him, but before it struck, a voice cut through the air. "Stop!" The guards froze. The crowd turned. The human boy had stepped forward. Ethan's voice shook, but it carried strength. "Stop this! She doesn't deserve it." Commander Vorn glared down. "You dare speak, human? You forget your place." Ethan didn't move. His heart hammered in his chest, but something stronger than fear held him up. "She saved my life. If she must be punished, then punish me instead." A loud murmur rippled through the arena. Aliens whispered to each other. Did he say punish him? Is he mad? No one interrupts a judgment. Vorn laughed darkly. "You a human slave? You think you can take her place?" Ethan nodded, even though his legs felt weak. "Yes, she did nothing wrong. I'll take her punishment." Lyra's eyes widened. She tried to speak, but her throat was dry. "Ethan, no," she whispered. The commander stepped closer. His red eyes glowed with anger and disbelief. "Why? Why would a human risk death for one of us?" Ethan's answer came quietly but firmly. "Because she's better than you." The arena went silent. Every alien stopped breathing for a moment. The only sound was the wind blowing through the open gates. Commander Vorn's expression changed from shock to fury. He pointed at Ethan. "Seize him!" Guards rushed forward, grabbing Ethan by the arms. He struggled, shouting, "She saved me.
She protected life."
Is that a crime here?" Vorn grabbed Ethan by the collar and lifted him slightly off the ground. "You are brave, human. Foolish, but brave. Perhaps you want to die with her?" Ethan looked straight into Vorn's eyes. "If that's what it takes." The commander let out a low growl and dropped him. He looked at the crowd. "The human wishes to share her pain. Very well, let him watch. Let him feel what mercy costs." The crowd cheered again, louder now, feeding on the cruelty. Ethan was dragged beside Lyra. The girl's face was pale, blood streaking her back. She looked at him with both anger and sorrow. "You shouldn't have done this," she whispered. He smiled weakly. "I couldn't watch anymore." Then the commander raised his hand again. The whip cracked once more, not at Lyra, but at Ethan this time. Pain exploded through his back. He bit his lip, refusing to scream. Vorn smirked. "Brave human. Let's see how long your courage lasts." The lashes continued. One for Lyra, one for Ethan. The crowd shouted louder each time. Dust filled the air. By the 50th strike, both of them could hardly stay conscious. But when Lyra's head fell forward, Ethan shifted closer, whispering, "I'll take it all. Just stay alive," the commander laughed. "You'll die first." But in that moment, something strange happened, and the crowd began to quiet. Some aliens looked uneasy. The human boy's defiance was something they had never seen before. He wasn't their kind, yet he stood against their ruler. Lyra looked at him through half-closed eyes. Her voice was barely a breath. "Why are you doing this?" Ethan forced a small smile. "Because kindness deserves to live." Above them, the suns dipped lower, painting the arena in red light. The punishment continued, but the people were no longer cheering. They were watching, silent, uncertain, shaken, and as the last lash of the day cracked across the air, Ethan fell to his knees beside Lyra. He was bleeding, trembling, but still alive. Commander Vorn stared at him in disbelief. "This is not over, human," he growled. Ethan looked up, his face covered in blood and dust. "No," he whispered, "it's only beginning." And in that moment, the spark of rebellion was born. The night after the punishment, the arena was empty. The twin suns had set, and the metal city of Zerath glowed cold and blue. The wind howled through the streets, carrying the scent of smoke and dust. Inside the dark prison below the arena, two broken souls lay side by side. One human, one alien. Ethan could not move his arms. Every breath hurt. His back burned with deep red wounds. Still, he was alive. The guards had thrown him into the same cell as Lyra, the alien girl he had tried to protect. She sat quietly in the corner, her silver eyes dim, her skin streaked with dried blood and glowing scars. Neither spoke for a long time. The silence between them was heavy, filled with pain, confusion, and something unspoken. Finally, Lyra turned her head slightly and whispered, "You're a fool." Ethan managed a weak laugh. "You said that already." She looked at him properly now, her voice trembling. "Do you even know what you've done?" "No human has ever defied the council. They will kill you for this. Maybe not today, but soon." Ethan looked up at the ceiling. The metal bars above flickered with blue light. "Then they can try," he said softly. "I couldn't just stand there and watch you die." "Not after what you did for me," Lyra frowned. "That was nothing. It was everything," Ethan replied. His voice was rough but full of truth. "You saved my life in the wastelands. You didn't even know me. You could have left me there." Lyra looked down, her hand shaking. "I shouldn't have helped you. The council found out. They said I hid something, some secret from Earth. They think I betrayed Zerath." "What secret?" Ethan asked. She hesitated. "A message," she whispered. "Something your people sent long ago. I found it by accident. It says Earth isn't gone, that your world still fights to survive." Ethan's eyes widened. "Earth is alive?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, but the council doesn't want anyone to know. They fear humans. They say if your kind returns, everything will change." Ethan sat up despite the pain. His heart pounded with hope and anger. "That's why they hurt you? Because you refused to give them the message?" "Yes," she said quietly. "They wanted me to destroy it. I refused." For a moment the cell was silent again, only the sound of distant footsteps above them. Ethan looked at her with respect. "You're not a traitor, Lyra, you're a hero." She gave a bitter laugh. "Heroes don't bleed in cages." Ethan smiled faintly. "Then maybe it's time someone broke the cage." Lyra looked at him, confused. "What are you planning, human?" Before he could answer, the heavy door opened. Two guards entered, carrying bright shock rods. Commander Vorn followed behind them, his armor shining under the cold lights. His expression was full of disgust. "Well," Vorn said, his voice low and cruel, "the heroes of mercy are awake." He stepped closer to the bars. "Tell me, human, was it worth it? Did you enjoy the pain?" Ethan stared at him without fear. "I felt something you'll never feel," he said quietly. "Compassion." Vorn slammed his rod against the bars, making the cell shake. "You will regret your words. The council meets tomorrow. They will decide your fate, or maybe I'll decide it myself." He turned to leave, but Ethan spoke again. "Why do you hate us so much?" Vorn stopped. His red eyes glowed. "Because humans bring chaos. Everywhere they go, they destroy. You think bravery makes you strong, but it only makes you dangerous." Ethan met his gaze. Maybe danger is what it takes to break your chains, Vorn growled and walked away. The cell door slammed shut behind him. After he left, Lyra whispered, "You're insane." Ethan chuckled weakly. "Maybe, but I'm not giving up." That night, as the guards changed shifts, a faint tapping came from the wall. Lyra frowned. "What's that?" Ethan pressed his ear to the metal. "It's coming from the next cell." A small stone popped loose, and through the hole peeked the face of a quiet alien with soft blue skin. "You don't know me," the stranger whispered, "but I saw what you did today. No one has ever stood against Vorn. You made them doubt him." Ethan's eyes lit up. "Can you help us get out?" The alien hesitated. "I can open the gate when the power shifts, Moan, but once you're out, you're on your own." "That's enough," Ethan said. "Thank you." When the twin moons rose, the lights flickered. A power change. The wall slid open and the stranger handed Ethan a small key. "There's an old exit tunnel behind the waste cells. Go now." Ethan helped Lyra to her feet. She was weak but managed to stand. "You shouldn't do this," she said, her voice trembling. Ethan smiled. Too late. They moved through the dark corridors, their shadows long against the metal walls. The sound of alarms grew faint. The city above still slept. At the end of the tunnel, they reached a small hatch that opened to the wastelands. The cold wind hit their faces. The stars above Zerath shone brighter than ever. Ethan turned to Lyra. "Once we find that message, we can show everyone the truth. Earth is alive. Humanity still stands." Lyra stared at him for a moment. This strange, foolish, brave human who had changed everything. She finally nodded. "Then let's run before the suns rise." They stepped into the desert darkness together. Behind them, the prison alarms began to wail again. Commander Vorn had discovered the empty cell. His voice roared through the speakers. "Find them! Find the human and the traitor! Bring me their heads!" But Ethan didn't look back. His steps were heavy, his wounds still open, yet his heart felt lighter than ever. For the first time in years, he wasn't just surviving. He was fighting back. And somewhere beyond the horizon, the secret message waited, glowing faintly in the ruins of an ancient human ship. The real war had only just begun. The desert of Zerath stretched endlessly beneath two pale moons. Cold winds swept across the dunes, carrying the sound of distant engines from the city. The night sky was alive with stars, but the ground felt empty, silent except for two shadows moving slowly across the wasteland. Ethan walked beside Lyra, helping her when she stumbled. The wounds from the lashes burned on both their backs, but they didn't stop. The prison lights behind them were fading into the horizon. They were free, for now. Lyra's voice was weak. "They'll come after us, Ethan. Commander Vorn won't rest until we're dead." Ethan glanced at her, his face pale under the moonlight. "Then we don't rest either. You said something about a message and something from Earth. Where is it?" She looked toward the distant cliffs, far west beyond the dust plains. "There's a crash site, an old human ship that fell here decades ago. The message is hidden inside it." Ethan's eyes widened. "A ship? You mean real Earth tech?" "Yes," she said quietly. "The Council tried to bury it. They said the ship carried disease. But the truth is, it carried hope." They walked for hours until the first sun began to rise. The dunes turned golden red. Lyra's steps grew slower. She was losing strength. Ethan stopped and looked around. In the distance, half buried in sand, stood a metal structure, broken and rusted, yet still shining faintly. "There," she whispered. The wreck. The ship was massive, like the bones of a dead giant. Its wings were torn apart and half of it was buried under sand. Strange plants grew around it, glowing softly blue. Ethan helped Lyra inside through a torn metal door. The air smelled of rust and time. Inside the ship, the walls were marked with human writing, faded English words. Ethan brushed his hand across one, USS Horizon. His throat tightened. This was one of ours," Lyra nodded. "The Horizon fell before I was born. The Council sent teams to strip it, but they couldn't decode the human systems. They called it cursed, so they left it to rot." Ethan looked around the dark cabin. "Where's the message?" "Follow me," Lyra said. Her weak voice echoed in the silence. She led him through narrow corridors until they reached the control room. Broken screens flickered with faint light, the last breath of the ship's dying power. She pointed to a round device half buried under debris. "That's it." Ethan knelt and wiped away the dust. It was a small black cube, cracked but still humming softly. A holographic symbol pulsed on its surface. The Earth emblem. He pressed his hand against it. The cube came alive, projecting a faint blue light. Then a voice, like human, deep and steady, filled the room. "This is General Marcus Kane, Earth Defense Command. If anyone can hear this, know that Earth still stands. We have not fallen. Our fleet is rebuilding. We will return for our people, for every human left behind. Do not lose hope." The voice faded, leaving only silence. Ethan's hands trembled. He couldn't speak for a moment. His eyes burned with emotion. "Earth, it's alive," he whispered. "We're not alone." Lyra smiled faintly. "That message cost me everything. When I found it, I couldn't destroy it. I thought maybe someday someone would come who needed to hear it." Ethan looked at her, his voice rough. "You did more than that. You kept humanity's hope alive." But before they could say another word, a loud sound broke the silence. A mechanical hum growing closer. Lyra's face went pale. "Drones," Ethan ran to the window slit. In the distance, 3 hovering machines were scanning the desert, their red lights sweeping across the sand. The council had found their trail. He turned back to Lyra. "We need to move, now." Lyra shook her head weakly. "I can't, my legs. They're giving up." Ethan looked around quickly, searching for something, anything. His eyes landed on a small storage compartment labeled auxiliary power. Inside, he found a portable energy core and an old plasma pistol, dusty but intact. He handed the weapon to Lyra. "Can you shoot?" She smirked faintly. "Better than you, human." Ethan grabbed the cube and packed it carefully into his belt pouch. "Then we fight if we must." The sound outside grew louder. The drones were landing. Red lights filled the ship's entrance. A voice echoed from outside, cold and robotic. "By order of Commander Vorn, surrender immediately." Ethan's jaw tightened. Not a chance. He crouched behind a broken panel as laser fire cut through the walls. Sparks flew everywhere. Lyra fired back, her hands shaking but steady enough to hit one drone. It exploded in a burst of blue flame. "Nice shot," Ethan shouted. The second drone fired again, and a beam scorched the metal near Ethan's head. He rolled aside, aimed the pistol, and fired. The beam struck the drone's core. It fell with a crash. The third drone hovered closer. Lyra fired once more, but missed. The machine aimed directly at her. Ethan didn't think. He ran forward, tackling her to the ground just as the beam fired. It hit the wall behind them, melting the metal. When the smoke cleared, Ethan helped her up. "You okay?" She nodded faintly, her chest rising fast. "You keep saving me," she said weakly. He smiled. "Guess we're even now." They both looked at the destroyed drones. "Vorn will know where we are now," Lyra said. "He'll send the army next." "Then we move before they get here," Ethan replied. He picked up the cube again, holding it like it was the most precious thing in the universe. "We have to get this message out. If Earth hears it, they'll come." Lyra stared at the glowing hologram that still flickered faintly above the cube. The general's words echoed again in her mind. "Do not lose hope," she whispered almost to herself. "Hope is a dangerous thing." Ethan looked at her. "Good," he said. "Let's be dangerous." Outside, the first sun rose again, turning the wrecked ship into a silhouette of golden shadow. And as the wind carried away the smoke, the human boy and the alien girl stepped out of the ruins together, hunted, wounded, but carrying the one thing the council feared most, the truth. The wastelands of Zerath were a place where even the wind screamed. Sharp red rocks tore through endless dunes, and storms of electric dust rolled across the horizon. Nothing lived here except scavengers, and now 2 fugitives. Ethan and Lyra ran through the cold sand, their shadows long under the twin suns. Behind them, the sound of engines grew louder, deep and metallic like monsters growling from the sky. "They're coming," Lyra gasped, clutching her side. Ethan looked over his shoulder. In the distance, 3 black hovercrafts sliced through the air, leaving trails of red flame. "The council hunters, elite soldiers of Commander Vorn. Keep moving," Ethan shouted, pulling her hand. "I can't," she said weakly. "My wounds. They're reopening." Ethan slowed, looking around desperately. The wasteland stretched in every direction. No cover, no city, only rocks and dunes. But then far ahead something glinted in the sunlight, a line of broken metal towers half buried. "There," he pointed. "Old power lines, maybe a station. They stumbled toward it, sand whipping their faces. The engines roared closer. The first hovercraft opened fire. Blaster beams scorched the ground near them, sending sand flying like waves. Lyra stumbled and fell. Ethan dropped beside her, shielding her with his body. "Get up!" he shouted. She coughed, trying to rise. "Go, Ethan." "Don't wait," he cut her off. "I didn't come this far to leave you behind." The next blast hit the ground near them, throwing both into the sand. Ethan's ears rang. The air smelled of smoke and metal. Then through the dust, one of the hovercrafts landed. Soldiers in silver armor stepped out, rifles glowing. Their leader, a tall alien with jagged horns, shouted, "By order of Commander Vorn, surrender now." Ethan stood, shaking, blood dripping from his arm. "Tell Vorn I said no." The soldiers raised their rifles, but before they could fire, a strange humming filled the air. A deep mechanical sound from beneath the sand. The ground trembled. Lyra's eyes widened. "Ethan, something's under us." A second later, the sand exploded upward. A massive shape burst from below. An ancient sandcrawler, half broken, its metal plates glowing faintly. It looked like a sleeping beast awakened after centuries. Ethan and Lyra fell backward as the crawler's front hatch creaked open. A voice shouted from inside, rough and hoarse, "Move if you want to live." Ethan didn't think twice. He lifted Lyra and ran into the hatch just as laser beams rained down behind them. The door slammed shut and the crawler dove back into the sand, vanishing beneath the surface. Inside, the light was dim and yellow. A short alien with mechanical arms grinned at them. His skin was cracked like stone. Well, a human and a traitor," he said. "That's new. Who are you?" Ethan asked, still breathing hard. "Name's Core," the alien said, flipping a switch. "Scrap collector. I dig for things others throw away. Lucky for you, I like trouble." Lyra leaned against the wall, trembling. "You saved us." "Why?" Core laughed. "Didn't do it for free. You're carrying something the whole planet's talking about. A cube with a message from Earth." Ethan froze. "How do you know about that?" Core tapped his mechanical eye. "The Council's been broadcasting your faces across every screen. You two are the most wanted beings on Zerath," Lyra groaned. "Then we're doomed." "Not yet," Core said. "The crawler's invisible to scanners. We'll ride beneath the dunes until nightfall. But you'll have to tell me what's on that cube. Maybe it's worth something." Ethan shook his head. "It's not for sale. It's the truth. Earth is alive." Core's smile faded. "Alive? I thought your kind was dust." Ethan opened the pouch and showed him the faintly glowing cube. "Not dust. We're still fighting, and if I can get this signal off the planet, Earth will come for us." Core stared for a moment, then sighed. "You're mad, human. But I like mad people. They make life interesting." The crawler rumbled deeper underground, shaking as sand scraped against its hull. Lyra closed her eyes, whispering weakly, "Thank you." Hours passed. When they finally stopped, Core opened a hatch above them. "We're safe for now, but Vorn's drones will never stop hunting." Ethan looked through the small window. Above, the night sky burned red from the glow of the city far away. He turned to Lyra. "We have to reach higher ground, somewhere we can send the message." "There's one place," she said quietly. "The Obsidian Plateau. It has an old transmission tower. If we can power it, the message will reach orbit." Ethan nodded. "Then that's where we go," Core frowned. "That place is cursed. The air is full of lightning storms. Nothing survives there." Ethan looked at him. "Then we'll make sure we do," Core chuckled softly. "You really are human, always walking into death with hope in your hands." Before dawn, they climbed out of the crawler. The desert was quiet again, but the sky above was alive with red lights. Search drones sweeping the horizon. Lyra pulled her hood up, her wounds still fresh. "They're everywhere," she whispered. Ethan adjusted the cube on his belt. "Then we'll move through the canyons. They can't fly low there." They started walking again, heading toward the dark shape of the plateau in the distance. Behind them, far away, Commander Vorn stood inside his flagship, watching the desert through holographic screens. His voice was cold and sharp. "Let them run. Let them think they can escape. I want them alive, and especially the human." His aide bowed. "Yes, Commander." Vorn's eyes glowed red. "He made a fool of me before the Council. I will make him scream before he dies." The screen flickered, showing the human and the alien girl crossing the sands. Two small figures carrying the one secret that could change everything. As the storm winds began to rise again, Ethan looked back one last time at the horizon. We're not just running anymore, he said softly. We're fighting back. Lyra nodded, her voice a whisper lost in the wind. Then let the chase begin. And under the rising suns of Zerath, their shadows stretched long across the burning sand, symbols of defiance against an empire built on fear. The first light of dawn broke over the obsidian plateau, painting the sharp black rocks in shades of red and gold. The air buzzed with static energy. Every few minutes, thin streaks of lightning danced between the cliffs. The place felt alive, wild, and dangerous. Ethan, Lyra, and Cor stood at the edge, staring down into the valley where the remains of an old communication tower leaned sideways. The metal was corroded, its antennas shattered, but faint power lights still blinked inside the structure, a ghost of what it once was. That's it, Lyra whispered. The tower. If we can power it again, the message will reach orbit. Cor frowned, adjusting the wires in his metal arm. You mean if it doesn't fry us first? This whole area is soaked in storm energy. One wrong move and poof, crispy bones. Ethan wiped the sweat from his forehead. We don't have a choice. The Council's hunting us. We need to send that signal now. The wind screamed across the plateau as they climbed down the rocky path. Each step sent pebbles tumbling into the abyss below. When they reached the base of the tower, Lyra knelt beside a cracked control panel. Her silver fingers brushed away the dust. It's ancient, she murmured. But I think I can make it work. Ethan crouched beside her. What do you need? Power, she said simply. Cor tossed a small generator from his pack. This baby's good for one big spark. After that, it's dead. Then let's make it count, Ethan said. They connected the cables. Sparks jumped. The tower's lights flickered weakly like eyes opening after a long sleep. The hum of energy grew louder, echoing through the cliffs. But miles away, Commander Vorn's fleet picked up the signal spike. Inside his flagship, alarms blared. His voice was cold and sharp. They're at the plateau. Send the hunters. I'll deal with the human myself. Back at the tower, the winds had grown violent. Lightning flashed across the sky, lighting up Lyra's face as she worked furiously. Ethan watched her, remembering the arena, the lashes, her scream the moment he stepped forward. She had been broken that day, but now she looked alive again, fierce, determined. How much longer? He asked. Almost there, she said. When I activate it, you'll need to protect me. The transmission takes time. Ethan nodded. He loaded the plasma pistol Cor had fixed earlier. I'll hold them off. Cor peeked over the ridge with a pair of cracked binoculars. Speaking of which, we got company. From the east, a dark cloud of dust rose. Vorn's hovercrafts gliding fast and silent. Red lights glowed like demon eyes through the storm. They found us, Lyra whispered. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then let's make our stand. Within minutes, the first hovercraft landed near the cliffs. Soldiers poured out, their armor gleaming, weapons ready. The leader's voice boomed through a speaker. Surrender, human. Surrender the alien and the device, Ethan shouted back. Come and take it. The first shots came fast, bright streaks of plasma cutting through the air. Ethan ducked behind a rock, firing back. His shots weren't perfect, but they slowed the soldiers. Lyra stayed at the console, typing rapidly as power surged through the cables. Cor joined the fight, swinging his mechanical arm. The weapon inside his forearm crackled with blue lightning as he blasted one soldier backward. You brought war to my desert, human, he yelled, grinning wildly. I love it. Explosions shook the plateau. The air smelled of ozone and fire. Ethan moved from cover to cover, shooting, reloading, shouting. He could barely hear over the roar of thunder. Lyra's voice came through the noise. Ethan! The system is charging, but it needs one more power surge. Ethan ducked as a beam hit the rock beside him. Cor, that generator, can it give more? Cor laughed. Only once. He grabbed the device, slammed it against the tower's base, and twisted the dial to maximum. The machine screamed, sparks flying everywhere. Run! Cor shouted. The generator exploded in a blinding flash. The blast wave knocked everyone off their feet. When the smoke cleared, the tower was glowing, alive again, humming with ancient power. Lyra crawled back to the console, coughing. Transmission online, she yelled. Ethan ran to her side. Send it. She pressed the final command. A blue beam shot into the sky, cutting through the storm clouds. The light was so bright it reached beyond the atmosphere, a signal of hope, a cry for freedom. But before they could celebrate, a shadow fell over them. Commander Vorn himself stepped out of his hovercraft, his armor burning red, His eyes filled with fury. He looked at Ethan. "You just called your death, human." Ethan raised his weapon. "Maybe, but at least I called for help first." Vorn moved faster than expected. His energy sword ignited, slashing through the air. Ethan blocked with a piece of metal, sparks flying. The two circled each other in the storm. "You think you can save her?" Vorn hissed. "You can't even save yourself." Ethan spat blood but smiled. "Maybe not, but I can give her time." Vorn lunged forward. The blade sliced Ethan's arm. He stumbled but didn't fall. He swung his pistol up, firing at Vorn's chest. The shot hit. The commander staggered back, armor smoking. Lyra screamed, "Ethan, the signal's working." "It's going through." Vorn roared in anger. He raised his sword again, ready to strike, but Lyra stepped in front of Ethan, holding a small alien device. "Enough," she shouted. She pressed a button and a wave of blue light burst outward. Every weapon, every hovercraft, every drone nearby froze, their systems disabled. Even Vorn's armor sparked violently. He fell to one knee, snarling. "What have you done?" Lyra's eyes glowed faintly. "I gave Hope a voice." Vorn struggled to rise, his armor failing. "You can't stop the council." Ethan helped Lyra to her feet. "We don't need to. We just told the universe the truth." The blue beam in the sky grew brighter, visible even from the farthest colonies. Kor limped forward, his mechanical arms sparking. "You did it, human. You actually did it." Ethan smiled faintly, breathing hard. "Not yet. The storm's not over." Above them, the beam began to flicker as the tower's power faded. But it was too late. The signal had already left the planet. Somewhere out there in the cold dark of space, Earth had heard their call. Lightning split the sky and thunder rolled across the plateau. The battle had been won, but the war was only beginning. The night over the Obsidian Plateau burned with lightning. The storm raged like an angry god, rain, dust, and thunder crashing across the sky. The old communication tower still glowed faintly, its beam cutting through the storm clouds like a sword of light. But the beam was dying. Power was fading fast, and beneath that tower, three figures struggled to survive. Ethan sat against a broken pillar, bleeding from his shoulder. His clothes were soaked with rain and dust. Lyra knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she pressed a cloth to his wound. Kor worked on fixing his damaged mechanical arm nearby, muttering curses under his breath. "We can't stay here," Kor said. "Vorn's soldiers will regroup. The signal's out, sure, but now they'll want blood." Ethan tried to stand, but his legs shook. "We hold our ground," he said through gritted teeth. "If Earth hurt us, they'll come." Lyra looked toward the dark sky. Thunder rolled endlessly. And what if they don't? Ethan met her eyes. "Then we fight until they do." For a moment, neither spoke. The storm's howl filled the silence, a lonely, endless song. Then Kor shouted, "Incoming!" Through the rain, dozens of lights appeared on the horizon, red and glowing, moving fast. Vorn's reinforcements. The Council's final strike force. Ethan grabbed his plasma pistol and stood beside Lyra. "Stay behind the rocks," he told her. She shook her head. "Not this time." "I fight with you," Kor laughed grimly. "Now it's a real war." The first hovercrafts arrived, unleashing blaster fire across the plateau. Explosions shook the ground. Sand and fire rained around them. Ethan fired back, hitting one of the hovercraft's engines. It spun out of control and crashed into a cliff. "Nice shot," Kor yelled, blasting another soldier with his electric arm. But the enemy kept coming, wave after wave. The air filled with heat and smoke. Ethan ducked behind cover, heart pounding. His weapon overheated, the barrel glowing red. "We're outnumbered," he shouted. Lyra closed her eyes and placed her hands on the ground. The lines of her alien skin began to glow faintly. "Not if I use the storm." Ethan looked at her, alarmed. "What are you doing?" She whispered softly. "Zerath's storms are alive with energy. My people learned to control them. Once." Before he could stop her, a surge of blue light burst from her palms, racing across the ground like lightning veins. The storm above responded. Bolts of lightning struck the enemy hovercrafts, one after another, exploding them mid-air. The soldiers screamed as the storm turned against them. The ground cracked open. Blue fire lit the plateau. Ethan stared, amazed. "Lyra, how?" She smiled faintly, her eyes glowing brighter. "I told you. My people aren't cruel by nature. We were taught to forget who we were. The light around her grew stronger. The power was beautiful but dangerous. Her hands shook violently. "Stop!" Ethan shouted. "You're burning yourself out." "I can hold it," she said, her voice trembling. "Just a little longer." Then through the chaos a familiar voice roared, "Enough!" Commander Vorn stepped through the smoke, his armor cracked but still burning red. His face was twisted with rage. He carried a heavy plasma spear that glowed with energy. "You think you can win, human? You think one signal changes anything?" Ethan aimed his weapon. "It changes everything. Now the galaxy knows what you did." Vorn's laugh echoed over the storm. "The galaxy doesn't care. Power is all that matters. And I have it." He charged forward like a beast. Ethan fired, but Vorn blocked the shots with his spear. Sparks flew as they clashed, the thunder shaking the sky. Ethan was fast, but Vorn was stronger. Each hit felt like a hammer. Vorn swung wide, knocking Ethan to the ground. The spear's blade hovered over his chest. "You could have lived as a slave," Vorn growled. "Instead you die as a fool," Lyra screamed. She threw out her hand. A bolt of pure energy struck Vorn's armor, sending him stumbling back. Vorn turned toward her, furious. "You!" He raised his weapon, firing directly at her. Ethan dove in front of her just as the beam hit. The energy slammed into his side, throwing him across the rocks. He hit the ground hard, gasping in pain. "Ethan!" Lyra cried, running to him. She fell to her knees beside his bleeding form. He coughed, barely breathing. "Don't stop the storm. Finish it." Tears fell down her face, mixing with the rain. "I can't lose you." He smiled faintly, his hand touching hers. "You won't, just make it count." She looked up at Vorn, her expression changing, sorrow replaced by fury. She stood slowly, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. The storm answered her again, lightning swirling around her like wings. Vorn shouted and charged, but before he reached her, a massive bolt struck his armor, shattering it completely. He screamed as he fell to his knees. Lyra stepped closer, her voice calm and full of power. "You ruled with fear, Vorn, but fear ends today." The final lightning strike hit him directly, blasting him backward into the storm. When the light faded, there was nothing left but ashes and broken metal. Silence followed. The storm began to calm. The clouds slowly opened, revealing a soft dawn above. Lyra fell beside Ethan, shaking. "It's over," she whispered. "He's gone." Ethan's breathing was shallow, but he smiled weakly. We won." Kor limped toward them, his mechanical arm sparking. "You crazy fools actually did it." He looked up at the sky. "If your people heard that signal, they'll be here soon." Lyra turned to Ethan, tears in her eyes. "You saved me again." He laughed softly. "Guess that makes us even. One rescue each." She held his hand tightly as thunder faded into silence. "No," she said. "You gave me more. You gave me hope." Ethan looked up at the rising suns, their light shining through the storm clouds. "Then keep it alive," he whispered. His eyes began to close, his breathing slowing. "Ethan," Lyra whispered, shaking him gently. "Stay with me," he smiled faintly. "Just tired. Wake me when the humans arrive." And with that, he went still. Lyra held him close, her tears falling onto his chest as the dawn broke. The tower's light faded behind them, but far above the clouds, something new appeared in the sky. Dozens of lights, ships, massive and bright, descending through the atmosphere. Kor pointed upward, his voice trembling. "Lyra!" "Look," she looked up, eyes wide. The ships bore the symbol of Earth. "They came," she whispered. "He did it." The storm was gone now, replaced by a golden calm. And as the first human ship touched down on Zareth's soil, Lyra whispered to the wind, "Rest now, Ethan. Your world heard you." The dawn over Zareth was unlike any other in its long history. For the first time in centuries, the sky was not red with war or smoke. It was golden. The storm clouds had broken apart, and between them, enormous shapes descended through the light. Human ships. They came in silence at first, gliding like silver angels across the horizon. Their engines hummed softly, glowing blue against the dark sky. Each ship bore the emblem of Earth, a white circle with a single star at its heart. Below, on the obsidian plateau, Lyra stood over the ruins of the old tower. Her eyes reflected the ships above, tears mixing with the dust on her face. Behind her, Ethan lay still on the ground, his chest rising faintly, weak but alive. She had stayed by his side all night, refusing to leave even when the cold winds bit through her torn clothes. Cor, the scrap collector, limped forward, his mechanical arm flickering with sparks. He whistled softly. By the stars. You humans really do come back, don't you? Lyra smiled weakly. He told me they would. As the largest ship descended, its landing thrusters kicked up waves of sand and wind. When it touched down, the ground trembled. A ramp unfolded with a hiss of air, and armored humans stepped out, soldiers of the Earth Defense Fleet. Their armor was black and white, sleek and new, glowing faintly under the rising suns. The leader, a tall woman with sharp eyes and a scar across her cheek, looked around the battlefield. Her voice came through her helmet, calm but commanding. Identify yourself. Lyra stepped forward slowly, holding up her hands. I am Lyra of Zerath. This human, she turned toward Ethan, her voice breaking. He sent your signal. The soldiers rushed forward. Two of them knelt beside Ethan, scanning him with glowing wrist devices. One looked up at the commander. He's alive. Weak but stable. The commander's gaze softened. We received his transmission. We came as soon as we could. Cor grinned, wiping the dust from his face. Took you long enough, metal suits. The boy nearly died screaming your name. The commander turned to him. And you are? Just a junk dealer, Cor said with a grin. But I guess I'm a witness to history now. The commander nodded slightly. Then you're part of it. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher. Human medics treated Ethan's wounds inside a mobile camp, wrapping his burns with silver healing gel. Lyra sat beside him, watching every breath he took. Machines beeped softly around them, filling the air with an unfamiliar hum, a sound of life, not war. When Ethan finally stirred, his eyes fluttered open. Where are we? Lyra smiled through her tears. You're safe. The humans came. Your message reached them. He blinked slowly, trying to process her words. They actually came? She nodded. Yes, you were right. Hope wasn't a lie. Ethan tried to laugh, but it came out weak and broken. Guess I owe you a thank you. For not giving up. Lyra leaned closer, her voice soft. You didn't just save me, Ethan, you changed everything. My people saw what you did. Some are already rebelling against the council. You lit a fire they can't put out. He reached out weakly, his hand brushing hers. Then maybe. That's what we were meant to do. Outside the camp, thunderous engines roared again. This time not from war machines, but from rescue transports. Human and alien civilians gathered across the dunes, staring up at the fleet as it spread across the sky like a protective shield. For the first time, Zerath's people saw humans not as slaves, but as saviors. Later that evening, the commander returned to the medical tent. She removed her helmet, revealing kind eyes beneath the stern expression. I'm Commander Asha Ray of the Earth Defense Fleet, she said. You two did something no army could. You reminded us why we fight. Ethan sat up weakly. You got my signal? Yes, Asha said. Your message reached one of our listening stations on Luna. When we decoded it, every ship in orbit was ordered to prepare. Humanity owes you both its gratitude, Lyra smiled faintly. It wasn't just him. Without each other, neither of us would have survived. The commander nodded. Then both of you are heroes. She paused, glancing toward the horizon. We plan to help rebuild Zerath, but it won't be easy. The council still has power in the cities. Ethan looked at Lyra. Then we'll help, together. Asha smiled. Rest first, soldier. The next chapter of this war will need strength. And heart. That night, the campfire flickered beneath the twin moons. Ethan sat beside Lyra on a ridge overlooking the desert. The ships hovered quietly above, like stars that had fallen to watch over them. You ever think we'd see this? Ethan asked softly. Lyra shook her head. No. When I first saw you in that arena, I thought you were a fool. Now I think you were exactly what we needed. He laughed weakly. A stubborn fool? She smiled. A stubborn fool who changed the fate of two worlds. The wind blew gently across the sand, carrying the scent of new rain. Below them, human engineers worked beside alien refugees, setting up lights and tents. It was the beginning of something new, fragile but real. Ethan turned to Lyra. You know, I think you saved me more than I saved you. She shook her head slowly. No, Ethan. You gave me something I didn't know existed. Faith. He looked out at the horizon where the first human city lights flickered to life on alien soil. Then let's protect it. Both of us, Lyra nodded, her voice soft. Together. The twin suns began to rise again, bathing the world in orange and gold. High above, the Earth fleet spread out like a constellation, watching over Zerath. And somewhere beyond those stars, on a blue planet far away, humanity waited, ready to reunite with the lost children they had once forgotten. As the light touched Ethan's face, he felt warmth for the first time in a long while. He squeezed Lyra's hand gently. "It's not over," he whispered. "It's just beginning." She smiled at him, tired, proud, and full of hope. "Yes," she said. "Hope rises." And with that, the storm-torn world of Zerath saw its first true sunrise, not of fire, but of peace. A new dawn for humans and aliens alike. A story written not by conquerors or slaves, but by those who dared to believe that kindness could still change the stars. The end.